Good afternoon. The American playwright and social activist Howard Zinn once said, "Small acts multiplied by millions of people can transform the world." Now, I'm going to ask you to indulge me just for a moment because I also would like to talk to you about my summer holidays. I have 2 young children under 10, and we've had a marvellous summer. We have spent so many days going out with friends. We've been to some fabulous, interesting places. We went camping for a week with friends in Norfolk, and then on a family camping trip to France for a fortnight, where we basically spent our time cycling, in the swimming pool, playing on the beach, and playing in the sea. It's fair to say my kids have had some brilliant life experiences this summer. For a growing number of children in Bath, the reality of their school holidays is very different indeed. For some, school holidays offer little to look forward to and indeed much to dread. Less to eat, less physical activity, fewer chances to socialise with their friends, and for some, very little of the kinds of opportunities I've just described having with my kids this summer. Holidays can place an intolerable strain on already stretched budgets. Additional childcare costs, increased utility bills, clothes that aren't school uniform, and of course, extra meals and snacks. Children living in poverty are going hungry in the holidays. Parents report skipping meals in order that their children can eat. And the quality of food often suffers when budgets are stretched. So perhaps a greater reliance on foods which are cheaper, higher in fat, higher in sugar, that provide a high calorific content but with less nutritional benefit, leading to malnutrition. Food bank use consistently increases over school holidays, as does the proportion of parcels going to children who are primary school aged. Teachers recognise holiday hunger and its effects. There have been quite a number of studies undertaken recently in which the majority of teachers say that they can see children coming back after holidays hungry. And in fact, 40% of teachers in a 2017 NUT survey said that they could see visible signs of malnourishment in children coming back to school after the long summer break. Now, in case we forget that these statistics represent lives which are being damaged, I spoke to a head teacher of a school here in Bath who told me the story of a pupil who had come back to school after a 1-week break and been given breakfast in school that morning. That pupil spent the rest of the morning vomiting bile because it was so long since they'd last had a proper meal. Now, holiday hunger is a direct result of childhood poverty. That, of course, the impact of that stretches far beyond food and malnutrition. So children from poorer backgrounds consistently lag behind at all stages of their education. They suffer from ill health for longer periods and ultimately have a shorter life expectancy. Here in Bath, 1 in 5 children is living in poverty. That's increasing both locally and nationally after 2 decades of reductions. And in Bath, it tends to be concentrated in specific geographical areas. In the most deprived of those areas, 4 in 10 children are living in poverty. That's about 12 in every class of 30. One of the government's key measures of deprivation is the free school meals rates. For some schools in Bath, that's as low as 6%, but actually for others, it's more than 10 times that, at over 60%. Tackling childhood poverty, including holiday hunger, can have a significant positive effect on the lives of children living here in our city. So what are we doing about this issue here in Bath? Back in early 2016, I had a chance conversation with a friend who's in the audience, and we'd both seen a bit of literature about a charity called MakeLunch, and we both wanted to know a little bit more. Fast forward 6 months, and we found ourselves opening 2 volunteer-led lunch clubs, one in Twerton and one in Southdown. And the aim of those is to provide some activities and then a hot, free, nutritious 2-course meal. I think in that time, so that's nearly 2 years, we have provided 1,400 meals to around 350 children and their families. Our very first lunch club, we had 12 kids and 7 adults come along, and we were absolutely delighted. We now regularly get between 60 and 70 in every session. And those numbers for us don't really mean anything. We've always said if we can provide one meal to one child who needs it, who might not have it otherwise, then that's a really great thing to do. Enrichment activities are really important. We work with a number of local community partners to help us deliver some of those parts of our sessions. So currently we're working with Bath Rugby Foundation, with Get Sported and with Motus Dance Academy to provide lots of different types of active sessions. We also work with Virgin's Cook It team. They come in and run healthy snack making sessions with the kids, and hands down they are the most popular weeks that we have. But they also then work alongside smaller numbers of our families outside of Make Lunch, running cookery courses, developing basic skills in producing healthy, nutritious family meals on a budget. We couldn't do any of this without our amazing volunteer team. We're a pretty diverse lot, and many of our children volunteer with us. I have to say, having our own kids there is fantastic. I cannot overstate the contribution they make. Not just in terms of, getting hands in and hands-on with all the activities, but actually in setting the tone for the session. They're so welcoming. They're so inviting. They're completely inclusive. And that is just amazing. I'd really like to tell you about a mum and her 2 girls who came to our Christmas lunch club last year. They had been referred to us from the local women's hostel they were staying in, waiting to be rehoused, having had to leave their family home due to domestic violence. I spoke to her a couple of times through the session, and she was able to tell me a little of the circumstances they were living in at that moment. They were having a really hard time. Her 2 daughters were just younger than teenage, and they were living in one small room. They really had very little to look forward to in the days. She woke up dreading what she was going to do to occupy them in this small space through each day. The invitation to Lunch Club had given them something to look forward to. And actually, when I spoke to her towards the end of the session, she told me that she felt overwhelmed by the welcome that they'd received and by the kindness and generosity she felt they'd experienced. Some of that was practical. Every family took home a hamper of Christmas food, blanket, and a new toy for each child, kindly donated by local churches and corporate sponsors. But actually much, much more of it was around the welcome created by our volunteers, the conversations that she'd had, the way she'd felt that there was no judgment, no stigma to her being there. Her girls had some opportunities that at that time she couldn't give them. They could forget for a minute where they were, and they could just enjoy making some crafts, making some Christmas gifts for each other, and she could just stop knowing that they were happy and safe. Make Lunch nationally is one of many organisations trying to tackle holiday hunger. Several of those, along with a number of recent academic research studies, were asked to submit evidence in 2017 to the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Hunger's report, Hungry Holidays. They made a number of recommendations aimed at standardising provision across the country. Unfortunately, those haven't been accepted by Parliament. They recognised a 4-fold benefit clubs such as ours can have. 1, they reduce some financial pressures on families. 2, where families come along as they do in Bath, that has a significant positive impact on families' well-being in the longer term. 3, they can help counter isolation. And 4, In some cases, they can act as a pathway to employment. So another Make Lunch Club talked of a mum who started coming to Lunch Club, who then started volunteering at Lunch Club. She was encouraged in volunteering to take her food and hygiene certificate. She did that. She hadn't taken any exams since she dropped out of school. That led directly to her feeling more confident enough to go and take English and Maths refresher courses, and then, directly as a result, gaining employment as a teaching assistant in a local nursery. The impact of something like this can often be significant and can be far beyond what you can see from the outside. So Make Lunch Bath started as the result of a chance conversation between two friends. And the willingness to do something, no matter how small that something felt in the grand scheme of the problem. And I'd really like to encourage you now, if you have an idea on how to light up Bath's future, to bring change to our city, to just make a start, to do something. As Howard Zinn said, small acts multiplied by millions of people can transform the world. And I wonder, what's your small act going to be today? Thank you.